Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have the honor. You know, he might be bigger than Gordon Ramsay. We don't even know how big he is in the restaurant world. A restaurant empire maker, Mr. Paul Tran. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, man. Now you're giving me like such new levels to stretch to. Imposter syndrome is like insanely present in me. Nice to meet you, man. Nice to see you today, man. Are you back from Sedona?
We are back. We just got water yesterday, so it only took 2 weeks. So super exciting. You know,
anything get damaged?
But I digress, because if you look at everything with the right perspective, you realize how important water is.
Oh yeah.
So before we get rolling here, I just want to thank our sponsor, dreamchasers.com. Thank you, Adam Carswell, for sponsoring the podcast. So what I like to do, Paul, with my guests is let them tell the story and kind of go from where they want to. So you kind of start your story and we'll go from there.
Thank you, man. Thank you again for making time. And I'm honored to be among all the greats that you've been interviewing, dude. My name is Paul, and I currently live in Southern California. I currently own and operate 10 restaurants for the Halal Guys, which is a really popular New York street food brand. And they are also my clients as well. Before I ended up owning and operating those stores, they were actually a client of mine that hired me for franchise consulting. So my main job, my main breadwinning work is actually consulting for restaurant franchises that are small mom and pop chains that only have 1 to 4 units, and they're interested in franchising, becoming, a much bigger name. And so before I got back into the restaurant business, I worked with Five Guys Burgers, which was like a small 5-unit mom and pop in Virginia. And I also grew a couple other companies like Freshie, which was a small chain that sold a couple hundred franchises for, ended up taking it public on the stock exchange. And also another brand called Elevation Burger, which was a 1-unit mom and pop in an obscure city. But they were doing some incredible work, and we decided to take them on as a client, and we built them to 60 locations, and then they ended up getting acquired by a public company too. So even I can talk to you about restaurants, but I can also talk to you about sales, which you and I chatted on privately. Like we're both like in love with sales, and so we can go anywhere and everywhere. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, we're going to cover all of it. And what's interesting, what a lot of times I don't talk about on the podcast is some people do or do not know that I spent 20 years in restaurants. So, restaurants and hotels. So I'm very familiar with the aspects of what's interesting. Where I want to dive in first is, if anybody has a business or has a business idea, what takes them from a small town in Virginia to 100 locations, but more importantly, why would they even want to in the first place, right? Like, I guess kind of that whole dynamic of that.
Yeah. Great questions. And I'm so glad you asked the second one, because I think most people suffer from like the bright shiny object syndrome, or it's like one of those things where when you marry someone, like the wrong reason to marry is like, oh, we've been together for a while, I think it's time. I think most people feel like they need to franchise. My strategy when consulting with people is actually counterintuitive. I usually just try and talk them out of the deal. Like, why would you want to do that? You're changing the DNA of your business from managing a bunch of high school, college kids to now you're managing a bunch of entrepreneurs with lots of money and lots of egos. And you're also managing remotely as well. There's so many complexities. Why would you put yourself through that? And if they feel like, if I get a sense that, the leadership has the grit to do it, or they're willing to spend the money to hire the right management team and structure in place, because most mom and pops stay mom and pops because there's no structure, right? There's no systems in place. The difference between 1 unit and 1,000 unit chain is just systems, and so I just flush that out. And I actually sound like I'm trying to talk them out completely. And if they're still hanging around, they're battered and beaten up, and they're still hanging around with me, I think it's time for them to talk about franchising. But to answer their first question, at least I can only speak from the capacity of restaurants. I usually look at, of course, leadership, because as you know, most companies, they need to have the resilient, anti-fragile leadership strategy where if a concept is not working, like they need to learn how to pivot or adapt or receive new, like constructive feedback. As you know, like Twitter and like Facebook, all these companies that we love today, like they didn't start off that way, right? They all started off doing something completely different, and they let the market decide, what they should be. So good leadership. Also, if they're doing something different in the marketplace as well, they have to do something so different that they've essentially created their own category. So for example, Five Guys, before Five Guys, no one was doing anything like in the middle market. Like everybody was doing like cheap fast food burgers like McDonald's or the $30 chef burger at the fine dining restaurants. Nobody was serving the middle segment. And so Five Guys, they met that need where people were willing to trade up from fast food for higher quality. And the fine dining folks were trading down because they wanted good food, but they didn't want to pay for tip service, the expensive large real estate that these guys had to, charge for. And so Five Guys was able to meet that need, and we were able to grow. I think they're at like 2,000 stores now, and they do $1 billion in sales because they created their own segment, like within like the McDonald's and within the fine dining guys. So if they're doing something different, and then those are the two. Yeah, those are the two that I need for a concept to work, to fly.
So there's a lot I want to hit on there, but are you familiar? Do you know a gentleman named Christopher Lockhead?
No, who is that?
Okay, we'll talk offline. So he is the king of creating categories for marketing. Like he's the godfather. Like huge exit from his company, has one of the biggest podcasts in the country, says what he wants to say on all realms. Kind of a little crazy, kind of perfect, kind of like our kind of guy. But that's why I love that category conversation. But what's interesting, right, is we're about to launch a company across the United States in the construction space. And I've been reading a lot about behavioral investing and kind of building a company and selling it and all that kind of stuff like that.
Sure.
And what's interesting is I think this has a lot to do with my 20s, and maybe I'm getting older. Like in my early 20s, I wanted to be the one that was special. Like it needed to be my name, you needed to know my name was on it, and I needed to be out front. And what I'm realizing as I get older and I read these books is that you need to highlight the product as the star and the system as the reason the product elevates.
Ooh, I like that.
So he said, like, the problem with you investors, why you lose money is because you think you're fucking special. That's what he said. And he's like, because at the end of the day, the fictional story I read called Built to Sell, this book, amazing book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He said, how much is my business worth? And he said, nothing. And he's like, whoa, hold on. But it made me realize, like, I'm not a systems guy, but my business partners are, and I'm getting better at it. And so we have to replicate something that's tangible over and over again, right? Because what you're saying in that context is like, because people associate it with a brand. So like if I go to Hop Daddy, right? If I go to Hop Daddy in Austin and I go to Hop Daddy in Arizona, I want the same experience. Like I want to taste the burger the same. And so for anybody that's an entrepreneur out there, anybody that's a company, how is it purely systems that you create that standard form that they can operate in any market?
Yeah. I mean, there's room for some localization to stay relevant to the local market, but 98% of the systems need to be reliable. I mean, the reason why people love McDonald's is because, I mean, it doesn't have the best burger on the planet, but you know what you're going to get every time, and people are willing to pay for that security. I call it like food insurance because they know what they're going to get. To be honest, like I've tried restaurant chains where sometimes one of their locations tastes amazing, another one's bad. like it ruins the brand loyalty or trust, because now I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to get. I'm just going to go to McDonald's or In-N-Out or someone that can promise me like a consistent experience. So yeah, it's all about systems.
So if you're talking to, let's say, who's ever listening, like an entrepreneur or somebody building a company, let's say just for shits and grins, they're a wholesaler or they're a flipper or whatever you want to say, but people are looking to get into other markets. If
Sure.
you're telling an entrepreneur or somebody that owns a company, where do they need to be in their business in order to feel like it's time? Because like my mentor says, you have to earn the right to create the new market. Like, where do you tell your entrepreneurs, your people before they're ready to franchise? Like, is it dollar amount that you're looking for? Is it systems? Like, where are the aspects of a business that you're looking for?
I have to digress and say I love when you said earn the right, because that's actually one of my best sales strategies. Like it's
Yeah.
like adding so much value that you've earned the right to ask for the sale, right? Anyway, we can talk about that another
Yeah,
time.
I
Right?
can't wait to get into sales. No, we're
Yeah.
gonna get into it. Yeah.
But no, actually, no different, no different. As far as so, for example, you sometimes you can earn the right, and sometimes you can borrow it. Is how I think about it. Because, for example, the Halal Guys, they're a unique case. Like I said, my criteria typically is like brands that have like at least 1 to 4 units. This concept didn't even have a store yet. This one only had 5 little food carts in New York City, but their brand had such a cult following, and the brand was way bigger than the number of stores that it has. So I just felt like, I think these guys just needed to catch up to their brand name. But when I say, but like when you enter a new market, to address your question directly, you can borrow the right by finding really good franchise partners that have had track record of success, are invested in the community. They have deep knowledge of real estate. They know how to operate really well. They have experience from running other restaurants and can apply their knowledge, their systems and their structure, and just plug in the brand and have it run. They have a better chance of running it successfully than someone without. So, I mean, does that answer your question as far
Yeah,
as?
it does. It does perfectly, because you hit on something there too. If you're a real estate investor, an entrepreneur, a business owner, and everything,
Yeah.
what is your vision, or basically what is your kind of go-to 1 or 2, 3 points on building a brand and creating something? Because those loud guys in Vegas, like the dudes that are like super loud, like a group of like 8 guys, like they're just loud. You can hear them around the corner before you even see them.
Yeah.
Sometimes your brand is louder. Like you said, they need to catch up with their brand. How do you, as a human being, because I'm my own personal brand, how do you create a brand that gets noticed in this, society that's full of a million different, dude, I could fall out my door and go to 15 different restaurants, right?
Yeah, there's just way too much competition now. I think if anything, I think back to basics and foundations they still apply. I do wonder if, like, now that everybody knows franchising more than they did 30, 40 years ago, I'm wondering if brands can still hit the 15,000 store mark or the 30,000 store mark like McDonald's and Starbucks. I think there's more players in this space, so you're gonna see a lot more, maybe less number count and more concepts. As you're in real estate, you probably see these restaurant guys are now doing like 10 virtual kitchens in one space. They're just trying to like there's just too many. There's quantity over quality right now, unfortunately.
Yes.
But I guess, to answer your question, I think that people just need to, again, create a category that they know, the subcategory that they know they can dominate, and just build a really powerful story, like what their mission is or what they believe. Like, for example, there's a couple concepts I'm consulting for where they're not trying to take McDonald's market share. They're not trying to take Five Guys' burger market share, but they're building a concept that makes plant-based burgers, and they want to allow vegans and vegetarians to love burgers again. And so I'm like, dang, that's a really cool mission. And their stores do extremely well. They just opened their second location within a year, and they're getting a huge following. And so, I mean, you just need to have an incredible mission and be able to attract the fans and people behind it. And that's like a clear mission that's different from McDonald's.
It's like you set me up for it. So there's a guy down in San Antonio. There's a guy down in San Antonio who made Bon Appetit's top 50 restaurants, new restaurants in the United States.
Nice.
He runs, it has 3 stools and 2 picnic tables outside. And he serves one item, 2 different ways. And it's pork. He's from Mexico. Quesadillas and tacos. That's it.
Oh.
And he looks at me and he's talking to me and we're just BSing about the business. And he was like, yeah, the problem with you Americans is y'all try to be great at everything. He says, we're in Mexico, like you go to that stand to get that type of taco. You go to that thing to get that type of burger. And I think sometimes like my big rail against society right now is I think the consumer and / entrepreneur have decision fatigue.
Yes.
Like you go to Starbucks and it's like, what milks would you like? Like 6 different fucking milks. And I'm like, just shut the hell up and just give me a coffee. And so there is a concept where less is more and you can just operate. It keeps your gross to net cost spread nice too. Yeah. You can systematize it over and over again. Is this something that you recommend to your entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the downfall of a lot of like full service casual dining chains, right? Like Applebee's and like Chili's. I love those brands. However, they're Cheesecake Factory. However, their menus are like 20 pages long. Mm-hmm. You get decision fatigue. You feel actually kind of stupid being there as well because nothing's curated for you. And you're also overpaying for real estate and service and tip and all that crazy things. And so fast casual is the darling. The narrow-minded menu is back to basics and just focus on what you're good at. So yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, I worked at Cheesecake Factory for 2.5 years. And I will tell anybody that test was harder than probably the MBAs at Harvard. You know what I used to do to people? You'll love this. This is what I used to do to people just for fun because I'm obviously psychology guy. So I would know that they would want to see the picture that they were ordering. And what I would do is I would put my hand on the menu and I would hold it where they couldn't go back to the picture. So they would have to order without seeing it. And you could tell that they were getting like very like uneasy because they wanted to like point at the picture. And I'm like, but I knew the whole menu. Like I have a photographic memory. So it was really odd. But
you're kind of a freak. So
I mean, yeah, you know what's interesting? Well, you know what's interesting? I'll tell you the story. Only because you're in the restaurant business and I've never told this story before.
Nice. So world premiere.
So on a Wednesday, like we had 10-year anniversary of Cheesecake Factory. Uh-huh. Well, the way they wanted to celebrate it was they wanted to do $1.50 cheesecakes. Whoa. So when I say that I was off that day, but somehow picked up a double, forgetting that it was $1.50 cheesecake day. So the cheesecakes, we had a line out the door all day on a wait. And the cheesecakes were taking an hour and 20 minutes when you ordered them because we had so many. We had 60 orders. People were driving in from an hour and a half away. Girls were crying. Like, dude, I went 5 hours and I didn't have a table over $6. Like,
oh my gosh, horrible,
dude. It was female servers were crying. I mean, it was demolished. Like, this is how bad it was. They would come for dinner and they would sit down and I would go, what do you want to order for cheesecake? I would put in that order. They would eat dinner and they'd still wait 45 minutes for their cheesecake.
Gosh, that's crazy, dude.
So somebody in the corporate office thought that was a great idea and we had to pay the price. Yeah.
Oh man, that was like a lot of ruined experiences, right? Like, oh my gosh.
Because it's funny that you say that. Because I want to hit on something that you said that nobody thinks about. And even you said it and it made me think about. You're paying for real estate by the price that you're putting in that thing. And meaning like the Cheesecake Factory is big, it's prime real estate. So anybody that doesn't understand that concept of like why the Cheesecake Factory is so expensive, like it's not so much the food costs and everything, it's the real estate costs. So could you let the listeners explain that when it comes to business and like brick and mortar?
You pretty much just nailed it. I mean, if you're, I want all businesses to charge whatever it takes to be able to provide incredible service, to provide consistent service. And, if you do tie down a 10,000 square foot space in like Santa Monica, you are going to have to charge enough. I think a lot of restaurant owners try and the problem there is that, there is like a threshold of like a price that customers are willing to pay. And so you have less margins that you can work with, but you still need to charge the amount that you need to make your margins, to pay for the real estate, to pay for good servers, to pay for good quality ingredients. But that just means you're going to have to charge more for it. And so, I mean, that's why I don't consult for any full service concepts, not because they can't thrive or not because they're not incredible food. I love Cheesecake Factory. It just sucks because I go in there, I only get like one thing every single time. And like the rest of the food costs are like probably shot because like nobody orders it. And so their food costs, I don't know what their food costs are. I don't know if you have any intel on that, but I'm sure they're not as sexy as fast casual, like your quesadilla and tacos, dude. Like his food cost must be insanely good. And next time I visit,
Scale
to bug you. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is now that you're saying that out loud, as soon as we get off here, I'm going to introduce you to my friend out in Nashville. He's developing a food hall in Nashville and then a second concept, and he's doing micro restaurants. So fast casual micro restaurants. So hear me out. I can't wait to introduce you to him. This is going to be amazing. Young, great developer, great young kid, crazy stuff. So he took an old 6-bay car wash and he's turned it into an outdoor food hall.
Oh my gosh.
So all the restaurants are going to be 150 square feet. The rent's going to be nothing. And you're going to be able to walk around and drink and get different food items in East Nashville. Yeah.
Oh, what a cool experience. Like, how's the aesthetic of the car wash?
It's amazing, dude. He redid everything with trees. I can't wait to show you a picture. It's insane, man.
Oh,
he told me that and I was like, why did I think of that? Like, what a great way to repurpose some real estate, right?
For sure.
And then what they don't understand by that is you allow, because so what you don't know about me is I ran a food hall before I went into real estate full time.
Is that the conversation, the clubhouse conversation we had? Or?
Yeah. I ran the food hall and we took a percentage, not a rent, right? And so if they had a down month, they only paid a certain number. But what you're doing, right? Same thing in podcasting, same thing in everything, is you're allowing the business to not be encapsulated and crushed by cost, to allow the growth to continue and build a brand while you're giving them what do they, I don't even know the word for it, but you're cross segregating businesses. So a guy that might get tacos might go get chicken because he went to go get tacos the next time so you're almost cross promoting, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Cross promoting, cross pollination, I think is what they call it. But if anything, it's the whole, rising tide floats all the boats, and there's just good synergy. Food synergy.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I love being next to those guys because when I help people find real estate for restaurants, I usually just say, we love to be next to all your competitors like Panda Express, Chipotle, and Panera Bread, because not everybody can eat Chipotle every day. But if you're conveniently there too, they're going to eventually give you a try and give you a chance to show them what good tastes like. So yeah, it's the synergy of it all.
I'm gonna adapt this to a life scenario. Everybody wants to be far away from their competitors or their enemies. Like I like to be right up next to them, right? Like perfect example of me. Maybe I'm just a weird person, but like I like to take all the free offers, like so I can see their email sequence, so I can see how they do business, because I'm not going to steal what they're doing, but I just like to see what I tell everybody. People think I'm crazy. I don't consume social media. Like I read the comments.
Yeah.
And I read what people are following because I'm consuming what people are talking about, not what they're doing. right?
Exactly.
And you're understanding you're understanding the psychology behind what they're doing, where they are. There's trends in America. I try to stay like right in front of the trends, like catch the wave, but this will lead us into, I think, mine and yours favorite topic, which is sales. So what is it about sales, right? Because in essence, it's the dirty word that nobody wants to talk about. It's the guy selling the used car. And I'll be honest with you, even me in my 20s, I didn't want to do it, even though I was one. But like I didn't do like to do it in my daily life. But what is it about the psychology of sales that intrigues you so much?
Sure. And I hope you don't mind me digressing, because I felt like this is important to share too.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about like not wanting to be next to your competitors. I'm sure you're a fan of Seth Godin as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. He wrote this one blog post. I can't remember where it is, but I'm messing it up, but pretty much he said that, why would you want to be away from your competitors? Because, if you're trying to sell a book, you're not going to like sell a book away from all the other books in the library or inside Barnes and Nobles, or away from the category of books in Amazon.com. If you want to separate and create your own category, but you still need to be able to play in the game. And so I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there because
here's the rub I'll throw on that is that the artist, whatever you want to say, the artist in art and food service and cocktails, they want to die on the sword of their art, which I'm told. I used to work in the music business. I'm totally okay with that. But why don't you die on the sword of your art once you've established a brand big enough to do what you want to do?
Yeah. You gotta pay your dues first, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And also one other point is, Chick-fil-A and Raising Cane's likes to be next to each other. Starbucks and Coffee Bean love to be next to each other because that's where all the customers are. Why would you be in denial, or why would you be so arrogant to think that you're going to change customers' habits? So you need to be where the action is. Unfortunately, you just need to be able to look different.
Well, to finish off that point, if you look at what COVID has done, is it single-handedly, take Billy as an example from GoFresh, it's single-handedly changed the buying patterns of Americans for the rest of their life. And so if you are a business that's technically not on e-commerce or doing, contactless service, that's ego is going to get you in the poorhouse. Yeah.
No matter your political stance or anything, it's just that's how customers buy now. So are you going to, be so hard set on the old ways or denial, or are you going to serve your customers and stay relevant? So well, we can unpack. I hope it's okay if we never leave that topic, but we'll get into sales too. Why sales? I guess if anything, I love sales because, I used to work in corporate where I used to work for Wells Fargo, like in the corporate office, and I love my experience there. But I just felt like no matter what I did as as an executive assistant or just someone who worked as a corporate manager in the stores, in the corporate office, I just never felt like any of my work mattered. I just felt like it was just bureaucratic crap. I just felt like I wasn't making any change. And so I guess when I wanted to change the scenery, I ended up wanting to, I wanted to learn how to sell. Wanted to learn how to sell because I saw like awesome people like Zig Ziglar and Jeffrey Gitomer. They were doing these tutorials where, they're showing how they could sell to help. They're selling to change people's habits and change people's lives for the better. Mm-hmm. And so in my head, I'm like, wow, like if I sell, I can immediately get the sense that I'm actually helping. My work matters. People's lives are being changed, or you're changing their mind about a product or service. And I guess if anything, it just stroked my ego to know that I could like help people and like directly impact. There was no bureaucratic tape or many levels in the way to helping people make change, like buying decisions. So I guess I chose sales because I just felt like I could truly help people, change their situation for the better. So that's what started off on my journey, and that ended up helping me sell lots of mortgages. I actually used to sell mortgages during the refi boom. I hope I didn't cause the refi meltdown in 2008, but that's another story. But I also just helped sell. I sold franchises as well. I sold over 1,000 franchises for all the restaurants that I consulted for. I've also raised capital as well, and I just love the idea that nothing, no business happens, no idea happens, no money, no revenue gets made until a sale is made. So sales is so important to anything and everything you do. Even when you're trying to apply for a job, it's sales. So when you're trying to get your wife to marry you, it's sales. So it's just all encompassing. So that and writing, I think, are the two most important skills I think anyone needs to learn, no matter like all the changes in technology or trends. Like sales and writing, or at least being able to share content, is what's going to stay. So that's the reason for being.
One of the things I'm on right now is I'm studying the art of telling your story. Like telling your story as a company and as a human, and kind of just like, I just finished the book this morning called Pitch Anything. Have you heard of that book?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
there was a book that you're reading. I can't remember from one of your past episodes, but you're reading and you said you require all of your coaching clients to read.
Yeah. That's what you say when you talk to yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Those are stories as well, right? Stories you tell yourself.
and basically what I champion, and one of my my gifts is that I can connect with anybody, within like 2 minutes. Like people all the time, like when we were at the restaurant, like people would get up and like hug me, like the table would like hug me, and like the other servers were like, how you've known them for like 30 years? And I was like, no, I just met them like 30 minutes ago. And they're like, holy shit. But like, I've never made anybody feel less, right? And it's kind of my thing, like, oh, you're wearing a Wisconsin shirt. Like, oh, I've got a buddy from Wisconsin, and Barry Alvarez is a great coach. And just like meeting, like I tell my team, like just meeting them on their level. Like we all have our own brains. Some are smarter, some are different, some are whatever. But everybody's put on this earth for something. And when you understand that the aspects of getting them to understand the product from A to B, and understand that, once again, I'll go back to what I previously said. You're nothing special. This is what I can offer you. So the question is what does this make you easier on you? Why would I do this? Like, okay, well, I'm hungry. Okay, well, I want this food. Like, I want it at that time. Okay, well, great. Then just buy that. And so sales to me, because of the coaching business or used car salesman or whatever, gets such a bad connotation. But what I do know about business in general is sales cures all. Yeah. Anytime somebody's whining or complaining or whatever they're doing, are you truly, because like we need that mechanism needs to come in for us to go do the other things. And that's so, right. You know what I'm saying? And so go sell. And I promise you'll have a problem that you have too many sales, and that'll be a totally different problem.
In the restaurant business, my mentor and old CEO of FranSmart, Dan Rowe, he just said that in the restaurant business, like sales can cure all sorts of problems, but there's no cure for low sales. Like all the problems that you have, like you can't be cured unless you have the sales. Sales can take care of all the problems that you have, like hiring issues or marketing issues, but sales, if you have the sale, you have the revenue, you can cure all sorts of problems. But I don't know. That just reminded me of that advice.
So anybody that's new to the game, or they're selling themselves or a business, or they're selling an idea, what are the 1 to 2, 3 things that you think they should focus on if they're cultivating their sales techniques?
You know what? I think the mindset is you're selling to help. Because I think most people, like you said, they have that stigma, like sales are so, greasy car sales are so manipulative. But to be honest with you, I still deal with it every now and then. I have the wrong mentality, but I just remind myself, like, gosh, like if I don't sell this product, people are going to continue hitting a ceiling in their business, or they're going to continue making these mistakes, or they won't be able to reach the potential that they want to reach. Like if I don't pick up this phone, and I also scare myself, like if I don't pick up this phone, I'm also unemployed too. With the exception of some passive income, like, like I need to sell in order to provide as well. So like selling it has so much impact. And so that's one thing. The second thing is, I love that you are talking about stories, because I think everybody, they said that like stories have been told for centuries, and so that's the human connection. It's people are drawn to stories, and the reason I've been able to sell like so many franchises for small, tiny chains with no brand recognition, no presence, no penetration, is because just like that vegetarian plant-based protein burger concept, they have a story. And they want to recruit people around a story. So, I mean, when I sell something, I usually tell the story like, hey, this product or this restaurant is trying to, help people eat healthier, make better choices without sacrificing food quality. Do you want to get behind it? And like, like that's much better than here are the 10 reasons why you need to do this crap. Like, I can't believe people still do that. But anyway, it's the story. It's all about the story. Like Halal Guys as well. Like I help them craft the story. Like they want to be the dom. Like they're on a mission to make like delicious Middle Eastern food available to mainstream. And so when they think mainstream, they only think of pizza and burgers. Like no one's done anything from a market leadership in Middle Eastern Mediterranean food. And like this is a concept started by immigrants from Egypt, and they're like the American dream. You're a success story for immigrants, and that's been able to attract so many. We sold like probably 400 deals already over across the globe just from that story. So story, mindset, and just constant learning and hiring coaches like you.
So I like that. So here's the thing. In this Pitch Anything book, he is the rainmaker of deals. When somebody is being presented with an idea, or you're presenting a thing, there's three brains. There's three different brains in your body. And the number one brain that it goes to is your crocodile brain. Well, your crocodile brain is the one that is scared and offends and protects you. So if you're coming to them with analytical jargon and you're overcomplicating them, they're going to shut you off.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to tell your story in a short amount of time, but get clear, right? I hate marketing people. Like they're like asking me like, who do you coach? What do you do? But like, I have to get really clear on what do I do if I had to explain it to an 8-year-old. And I think sometimes we as consumers or we as entrepreneurs and people that are building our brand can be very excited about what we're doing, right? Like if I were to sit here and have a conversation with you, like Paul, you'd be spinning if you heard all the things that I was doing, and you'd be spinning if I heard all the things you were doing. But what is the quickest way to get across, to paint a picture of what you do? Boom, tell that. And what I've learned, especially with your track record, is you don't have to promote yourself, because what these guys have taught me is you just lead with results. Like I don't have to promote myself. My coaching clients are my results. You don't have to promote yourself. You could just say, this is what I've done for these franchises. Either you want this or don't want this. And then boom, you're on your way. Yeah. We create these metaphysical BS stories of what people need to hear instead of just listening. Perfect example. We're building out a course for my second podcast. And we spent like an hour, right, talking about like what we were going to coach. Uh-huh. And we both looked at each other and go, why are we doing this? Like, doesn't even make sense. Like, why don't we just host 4 Zoom calls, ask people what they want to learn, and then build the course around there? And I'm like, okay, so really as a leader, a CEO of a business, the answers are right there, but we have to remove our ego to ask them and let the customer per se tell us what we want.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though. The whole concept of like how Apple built something that people didn't realize that they wanted. How do you reconcile that concept with listening to the market as well? Like sometimes the market with their focus groups and all that stuff doesn't really, or things that they do comment or talk about, what does it called? The visceral, like sometimes it doesn't match up with their visceral feelings or things they truly want, and they'll actually take action on. I know I kind of threw this at you, but like, do you have any idea on how to reconcile something like that?
I'll combat it with this. My coach said this to me, and it's something I live by. You, meaning you as what you do in your business and what I do in my business, we only help and coach what we've been through.
Yeah.
And so we will attract the humans that exist that we can help. And the universe only gets right. So like, why do we need to be stressed out as a business person? It doesn't matter because I'm coaching and helping what I've already been through. Like the reason I can help out people in a victim mindset is because I lived it for 20 years. The reason I can help somebody who was an alcoholic because I was an alcoholic for 20 years. And so the reason that you can help mom and pops sell franchises is because you've already done it. And those are the people that you're going to attract. And so if you're forging through, let's say, a visionary product, right, per se, there still are relatable aspects within that product that are forged in the history of business.
Yeah.
And so your idea on concept might be different, but how it gets to market, I guarantee you it probably looks pretty same.
Well, it's funny. I threw that because, and I'm glad you said it that way, because I'm like, okay, thank God I don't have to be that visionary person anyway. Like the reason why I love franchising is because I can't create jack. I can't create anything, but I can absolutely build. I'm really good at building businesses around things. So I can build a template that has been done before. So I'll leave the visionary work to the visionary. So,
this guy has 130 Airbnbs and he lives in London, Dubai now. And he said something very interesting to me that stuck with me is for the last like 40 properties, he hasn't walked in any of the properties. He hasn't touched them. He doesn't even know him. He closes the deal, whatever. And the reason is because he says he doesn't want to be emotional about them if something happens. And what he's done instead is he's created metrics within his company, a dashboard metrics, that if something is wrong in a property, he knows where the problem is.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to me. And that's why I look at your franchise model and I go, if you're seeing a dip over here, then you could probably relate it back to this thing. And because there's a blueprint that walks us through instead of being out there, which I describe 90% of entrepreneurs are out on a ledge on the end of a branch and they're out going, why the hell am I here? Because you haven't followed the steps necessary to get to where you need to go.
That guy clearly has systems, right?
Yeah.
So, it's boring. It's invisible, but it's so critical, man, if you want to scale. So good for him.
I love it. So if people want to hear about your podcast and they want to find out about you, how would they do that?
I'm most active on Instagram. I think all the links and everything that can be related, track back to me, would be on Instagram. So it's at Paul Tran. Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, can't thank you enough, guys. If you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends and we'll see you next time.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.